Okay, let's get going with another lightning strikes twice. This is Casey. That is Eric. 5 minutes apiece, one topic per person, and go.
All right. So mine's a bit of
Oh,
a
I'm getting
sort
good at that.
of it's so mine's a bit of a like tomfoolery slash philosophy kind of thing.
All right,
I was thinking this because I've been watching a lot of Star Trek lately, and
nerd.
yeah, but like there was an episode where two of the cast or the characters get married, and I thought about it, and I'm like, wait a minute, why isn't non-monogamy like standard, especially in Starfleet? Like, why isn't that totally common? Why are people still getting married?
Um, hmm. I suppose that maybe Gene Roddenberry held on to the idea of um, two people um, being like kind of a sacred bond or something. I mean, there's a romance to it, and that I think that also goes with stories much better than something that others might see, at least as spectators, as more dilute. You know,
Well, and maybe it's also like to kind of conclude a character arc or something like, oh, finally after all this time, they, like in DS9, the like Dax getting married and stuff, it's kind of a culmination of the story or something. But it does strike me as odd because like it kind of doesn't make sense in Starfleet in particular, like because you typically be away from whoever for potentially years at a time. So like I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be symbolic, but I would imagine there'd be like other relationships that would be occurring uh throughout, you know.
come to think of it, I can't even think of any like alien species where something like that was their cultural norm. Can you?
I maybe the
The Ferengi, if
people,
anybody, but
maybe
I don't.
Risa, possibly the Rycians, maybe.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
I suppose, but they were few and far
Rise is
between.
more of like a giant swingers club planet. Like,
Well,
you know,
yeah, kind of. But I mean, still, like I think that their culture it's fairly commonplace.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, like the way they depicted it in the show was kind of like that. But it's like I'd actually like to see more of the rest of Risa, not just the resort areas and stuff. Like
Yeah, I mean, if they're
what's
if they're coming up with all these new Star Trek shows, just have Star Trek Rise and
yeah.
release it on HBO or something.
Yeah, or something like how DS9 centered around Bajor and stuff. Maybe have something centered around Risa and stuff because it is kind of a little bit like a melting pot place. Like people come from
Well,
all
yeah.
around.
Well, and the fun thing about like um, a super huge universe, a canonical universe like Star Trek is there's a lot of unanswered questions like what's
Yeah,
the planet's history, like how did they get to that point, like
yeah,
maybe they were like full of tumultuous wars and death and destruction and space travel, and then they were all like let's just stay home and fuck.
yeah.
um,
Exactly. Well, and that's what's so great about that universe. Like you said, I mean, there's so many potential stories that could be told that maybe were hinted at or glossed over or whatever that or it's like, oh yeah, this planet, but don't really know anything about it. And that could be its own series, really.
mhm, mhm.
I mean,
And you could tie it
DS9,
in with Star Trek Picard by having Picard being like, oh, this is my, what was it called,
the Horgon.
the Horgon. This is my Horgon. The archaeological significance of this. It was from a time when Risa was like full of war and stuff, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the war gods really like to fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, but it is kind of strange that like you don't
And
see.
then all her clothes fell off.
Yeah. But it's like only certain characters have kind of, like Riker. He's not quote unquote tied down, so he's kind of seeing. He's sort of like Kirk essentially in that series.
Even he ended up marrying Troy, though.
Yeah, yeah, a lot later. But
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
thing is like you didn't really see very much non-monogamy going on. It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
like these very monogamous relationships and stuff. And It's really weird. Like I just feel like, culturally, maybe
Yeah.
things would have changed by then.
Well, yeah, like it's especially surprising with the new uh approach they're taking. Like not new in the sense that Star Trek is all of a sudden woke because they've always been like that, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
now with like crowbarring in as much diversity as possible, they kind of missed that one, I think. Yeah.
It is weird, yeah. Like that doesn't have any representation, and there's potential for that too, from a storytelling standpoint. Like, oh, the people dealing with conflicts or overcoming things or whatever, and like conflict resolution with multiple partners and whatnot. I mean, whatever. There's all kinds of potential stories that could be told there.
Yeah.
Man, not just overcoming bigotry, which is pretty much what like every other thing is there.
Right.
It's which okay. Well, that's time. That turned out to be pretty good, actually. Nice.
Hmm.
All
All
right,
right.
on to you.
Okay. Let's go with um, maybe kind of a religious theme. Do you think Noah's Ark was real?
Oh man, oof. I mean, I guess there have been like archaeological expeditions that have claimed to have found things and stuff like that. I mean, if it was real, any remnants would be long gone, which I think the only
Right.
thing I've seen was basically an aerial shot showing like the kind of the outline of some kind of ship or something that maybe looked unnatural where it was. So it's like I guess
A
uh,
bunch of wood that saw a lot of salt water, somehow making it like thousands of years.
yeah, yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
was it was more than just wood too. I think like fastening things and stones and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it, similar tales exist in disparate cultures too.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like there may have been. I don't know. Like I definitely don't necessarily buy into the whole biblical Noah's Ark, but there may have been something like that happened a long time ago. Because I mean, the Bible's kind of derivative of previous works. Um, so
Mhm.
maybe there's a story from a long, long time ago where something like that happened, and the peoples of the time created an ark to preserve as much as they could to overcome this flood that was happening. Who knows?
Yeah. I
But
mean, I always say, beware of God. His ark is worse than his smite. But
it's kind of
um,
a dad joke there.
um,
Oh yeah. What do you
uh,
think?
well, yeah. I mean, like you said, there's tales all around the world, but they all come from like slightly different geological periods of time,
Hmm.
and they all talk about world floods, but it's all from their perspective, right? So everything that they see is covered in water. That's the whole world, right? And
Yeah.
that's how the story goes. So of course, the entire world didn't like suddenly come under all this water. Like I don't even think that would be actually physically possible with the amount of water on Earth. And
No. I mean, there is water in Earth too, so it's
but
even then, that's still a stretch.
yeah, like what? How much would have to come together for that to like meteorologically make sense?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, there's
especially with 40 days of rain like that. That whole,
that is, yeah, that's not enough rain, honestly, for I mean, unless it's really raining, but geez.
yeah, but I mean, like without getting too pedantic about all the the science and stuff like that. Um, of course, there were floods all over the place, and yeah, there could have been somebody that was like, "Hey, I'm going to build a boat because I see a storm coming, and I think it's going to be really super bad."
Or
And
they've been tracking over time, and they're like, the last time this happened, that these conditions were around, there was a massive flood.
right,
So yeah.
and chances are, like it probably happened near a river or something.
Hmm.
I don't know exactly in the biblical story where it was supposedly taking place, like ground zero of the arc, but
Mm.
um, like it probably wasn't so far inland that it would be out of the
But
ordinary for water to appear.
wasn't it kind of centered around like the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers or something like that? Maybe I don't
Probably,
know. I'm kind of off on my memory of biblical stuff, but
yeah. Well, yeah, and like to me, I kind of wonder if that ties into like Atlantis lore,
it
like
it very well could. Yeah.
island arc, like
Hmm.
um
It and I'm of the mind that there used to be back a long time ago a somewhat technologically advanced human civilization that got fucked over by something.
mhm,
Who knows, like a big meteorite strike or some geologic change or whatever, and maybe that's where these stories come from. It's possible.
yeah.
I don't know. And but the thing too is like a lot of the Bible is allegorical and stuff. It's there's another meaning behind it. And maybe the arc story is a matter of like, hey, prepare for the future or something that, hey, don't just act like, oh, whatever, it's everything's going to be fine because it might not be. So if you're not ready for it, well, poof, there you go. Oh, well,
uh,
ding dong, there you go, I guess. Yeah.
uh I was totally going to talk about the whole two animal thing too, but
Oh God, yeah, yeah. That's well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Even if you look at the dimensions of the ark according to the Bible, there's no
yeah.
way that diversity of animals could possibly be housed in there.
I was just going to make a comment on like how that's an obvious attempt to make a plausible explanation for where all the animals went,
Hmm.
um, because it's like a story, right?
Yeah.
So that tells you it's just a story because, of course, that couldn't have happened.
No, no. I mean, maybe in a local level, like we were saying, if it was, one small region that flooded, yeah, okay,
Mhm.
you could certainly collect most of the animals that are in that region, but not the whole planet.
Right.
What did Noah have? Like some kind of spaceship or something? Like how did you get all those animals?
What did he do with all the animals that are polyamorous?
Well, yeah, there's quite a few that are. And what did he do with all that poop?
Well, that's why it sank.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, this is a good one that we yeah, pretty
We even tied them together.
yep, exactly. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for watching and tune in next time for the next Lightning Strikes Twice.